So thanks for joining us for this conversation, chat about PE, all things phys ed with Alec Mason, who's head of PE at Arden Academy in Solihull. And really grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us on a Friday afternoon after a busy week at work. and Alec was just saying to me that it wasn't the easiest week at work, so even more appreciative of your time, and hopefully we can have a nice conversation to finish the week. So without further ado, Alec, I'm not really a big fan of introducing other people where people can introduce themselves. So tell us about your background and your story and anything you wish to mention or is relevant.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of a story about my kind of journey in education and how it's kind of unfolded, really. So I was one of those kind of sport geeky kind of kids who in their national curriculum actually wrote, I want to be a PE teacher in year 10. How sad is that? But I'm living the dream, which is always a good thing. So I've pretty much been kind of on this path to being a PE teacher and head of PE since about 14, 15. I've never wanted to be anything else. So when they say kind of, dream big, this is my big. And I absolutely love it. I love waking up every morning and I love doing what I'm doing. So so much so that we'll go into a little bit of the kind of story of kind of journey a little bit in a moment, but I've actually moved back down to being head of PE again, and I couldn't be happier. So so I went to Chichester University. It was at the time when it just changed from West Sussex Institute of Higher Education to Chichester Standalone University. So that was 1999 to 2004. I took a year out playing football and doing other various bits and pieces. So I deferred for a year halfway through. Loved that. Stayed locally until my wife finished university as well. And so I've worked in 6 different schools. I became a head of PE after about 3.5 years, and an assisted school in Birmingham. Again, loved every single second of it, but family commitments and stuff, you kind of think, well, I need to go higher. I need to kind of get a little bit more money in the bank, and kind of, that's the next progression, isn't it? You've been a head of PE for 4.5 years. You want to step yourself up to kind of, AHT, assistant head teacher, and to leadership, which I did that for 7 years. Enjoyed parts of it, but not a great deal of it. And I'm a huge relationship person, and when you're in an office a majority of the time by yourself, it's not the kind of it's a little bit more lonely than people think, I think, being an AHT, and I struggled with it a little bit. So we made the decision, kind of work-life balance, to kind of step back down and do the one thing that I love more than anything in the world, which is teaching PE on a day-to-day basis, being around like-minded people. I've got a fantastic team here at Arden, which I just love being a part of. We've got some serious talent here in the department, which is, again, allowed me to kind of explore curriculum ideas, teaching, pedagogy, and things like that, because they're so receptive to it. And if I'm being honest, there's a few of them, like, the way they kind of deliver stuff, I'm kind of like pitching ideas as I go along as well, which, how fantastic is that when you're at a department pinching ideas off kind of younger members of staff? So it's a really great environment to work in. I couldn't be happier with what I'm doing at the moment. But we're going through a transition from, so is everybody, it seems, in the country. We're looking at our curriculums, we're reviewing what we do, we're coming up with new things. And so currently that's where I'm at Arden PE. And so we're working hard and loving life at the moment. So
well, it's a brilliant story, and there's a couple of people I've been really fortunate to have contact with and learn from, who have been into school leadership and then followed their heart back into their subject area, which really resonates with me. When I was at school, when I was teaching, I always resisted applying for the next rung up the ladder. I had a couple of very, very good friends who did that, not from PE, but from the other subject areas that they felt very closely attached to, and it didn't work out for them. And I just never wanted to. I always wanted to stay in PE. So I'm feeling your pain. So were you line managing PE when you had 7 years in school leadership?
Yeah, so the first school I worked at, yes, I managed to kind of line manage the P department and kind of performing arts and around that whole kind of area. And the second school, no, because I like to kind of put you in areas where you're not kind of directly influencing with your ideas, and actually you're coming with a bit of an outsider's look into a department that you're not necessarily familiar with, and then a subject area you're not familiar with, which kind of enjoyed, if I'm being honest. I kind of enjoyed that part of the job more than a lot of it, because again, you're talking to people, you're talking to teams, you're getting to know people. And again, like I said earlier, I'm a huge relationships kind of person. I need to be around people. I need to be talking. I need to be kind of, I need to be surrounded by kind of first thing in the morning, last thing in the afternoon, at your lunch times, your break times, talking and learning. So yeah, so they were the best parts of the job, actually working outside of a PE performing arts kind of arena. So yeah, a bit of mixture of both. So
yeah, I'm sure you must have learned loads. Would you say that you're a better head of PE second time round?
yes. Yes, definitely. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I came into after 3.5 years, and 3.5 years in teaching, you're like, right, I'm gonna just blow this out of the water. I made so many bad mistakes. I made so many kind of like, it was all about kind of like, I know you do the whole grades kind of thing, and you want to impress other people, you want to show people you're in the area where you should be in. I should be at a department. It doesn't matter how young I am, I should be here, and you're all going to listen to me, and we're all going to go on this journey where I'm going to lead you there. Oh my good Lord. It was, it was the biggest learning curve ever. I think after 3.5, 4 years of doing it, I think I was like, no, that's not the right way of doing it. So, and it was a relatively tough team to kind of be in as well. And relationships within that was absolutely crucial, just to kind of get by your day-to-day, go your day-to-day kind of business, really. And every day seemed a bit of a struggle at times. And I think I was happy to come out of that for a while, to go, do you know what, I think I'm ready now. I made difference here, and I made change there. Actually, I reckon I could do a whole school, so I'm going to go straight up there. Without actually thinking, do you know what, this is great here, but I wonder what it is like at a seriously high performing PE department, or working with other kind of teachers. And I wish, looking back, I've done that in the first instance, rather than thinking, right, that's that done, therefore my next rung of my job is to do this, and then move forward kind of through, like you said, through the AHT kind of leadership route way. So yeah, it was a huge learning curve.
Yeah, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because we're sort of conditioned when we, certainly, when you go into teaching, to, have that very linear career pathway. And that's what you do, that's what you're programmed to do. And it takes those sort of critical incidents to make you really step back and think, is this what I want to do? And is this what I'm good at? And am I actually having any success? I saw a tweet yesterday from someone who I've not come across before, whose bio was 20 years, returning to PE after 20 years and picking up a doctorate on the way. Wow. And loving every minute of it.
Wow.
And whoever that person was, if you're listening, reach out, because I'd love to have a chat. It sounds
that'll be a conversation.
It'd be really good. So let's drill down into some of the things that you've sort of flagged up. So yeah, would you mind sharing? I've seen you sharing snippets on social media, but what's the big idea? What's the direction of travel and the priorities in your team at the moment?
Yeah, no worries. So I've been in this post about 2 years now, and again, lockdown, even I'd say in the last 2 or 3 years of my previous kind of role as the assistant head teacher, constantly looking into PE and looking around and thinking, oh, what we're doing, is this school doing what we should be doing? Am I doing what I should be doing? The one positive that came out of lockdown was the ability to the opportunity, should I say, to read, to research, to reach out to people. And as it kind of went through that journey of that kind of 1.5 to 2 years, and then starting here, you know, all of a sudden things start to click. You start to look at what you used to do, and reading kind of James at Everlearner's blog about the 20 mistakes he made, and kind of, you know, I am Sporticus on Twitter, and reading his mistakes he made. You start looking back and thinking, oh my good Lord, that is so me. It really was. And, you know, how can what we do make a bigger impact? So part of my role here, I kind of like, you know, had a sneaky suspicion on interviews saying, oh, so what's your big ideas for Key Stage 3 kind of curriculum? I was thinking, right, they want to change their Key Stage 3 curriculum. So, which then gave me when I got the job in kind of February, March time for a September start, it gave me a massive run in at it. So I kind of like, right, this is where I see it. But the last thing you want to do going into a new high performance department, because it was high performance department, was coming saying, right, scrap what you do, we're doing this, because that's how you kind of lose people very, very quickly. So I wanted to come in with my big idea of kind of movement friendly, engagement movement, and kids just running down to PE. You know, you want that kind of, you know, stampede. You're having your cup of tea in between lessons and you're thinking, oh my God, here come the year sevens. You can hear them coming outside. You want that on a day-to-day basis. And the only way to do that is I felt that it had to be through inclusion. So we were looking at what makes PE inclusive as we possibly can. So it's not like, I know we kind of go over it quite a lot with the sportier kind of style students, the ones that kind of, it doesn't matter what you put in front of them, they would enjoy PE and they know what their path is quite relatively early on. You know, they play football 3 or 4 times a week, they play hockey 3 or 4 times a week, cricket, rugby, you know, all their kind of badminton and tennis, all those kind of sports that they would do. But it's the mass. It's the kind of like, you know, if you have a class of 30, it's the 15, 16 others who come down to PE and look at you as to say, can you please make me enjoy this? Can you give me something that I can grab hold of? And we took hold of that as our kind of driving force within a lot of PE kind of meetings when I first started here. And we almost said, right, scrap everything. Here's a little bit of research. Here's a little bit of research. What do we all think? And we all kind of banded around ideas. We looked at what was out there, and gradually we started to kind of drill down into what we all thought was actually going to be a curriculum that we could all get on board with, but not only us as well, the pupils. So when that first term, you know, we did the whole kind of student voice, but out there, do you enjoy PE? Why do you enjoy PE? And it was very polarized. You can imagine the kids coming back saying, I love PE more than life itself. Well, you know, when I started asking questions about those students, because I didn't really know them, they were your sportier students, and the ones that thought, and the ones who kind of like commented back, no, don't like it, were those ones who don't necessarily represent or come to after school clubs. So it was a huge kind of disparity on the kind of pupil voice. And we took that into the meetings as well and said, what's this telling us? You know, what can we do about this? What can we do about this other kind of side of, the flip side of the coin with the students? So yeah, so that then started a whole range of different kind of questions and a whole range of different ideas. And then we started thinking about what kind of, you know, what kind of topics do we want to explore? What kind of areas do we feel? And that then started to kind of write down different ideas. And we started, well, we want to do, we like the whole kind of team collaboration, kind of helping other people, the empathy side of things. You know, we really kind of bought into that quite early. And that then born out our spirit of the community unit of work, which we deliver, which is one of them now. And the kids just play tons of different games, but how we kind of organize the games is quite key to how that kind of manifests itself into kind of a unit of work or a topic of work. And then we started thought about, we want movement. We, you know, through lockdown, students, especially with a lack of kind of PE from Key Stage 2 coming up from into year 7 and 8, you know, they wouldn't have moved as much as we wanted them to move. And actually, do they know how to move? You know, kids can tell you they're going to know how to move, but when you look at them, you kind of think, yeah, you do move, but is it efficient enough? And actually, can we improve what we do for them? And again, we teach that kind of developing flow topics, very, very movement friendly. We look at things like lateral movement, agility, kind of evading skills, running in straight lines. What's the difference between running in straight line for speed and for long distance? Show us. Let's have a look at what you do. How do you have your arms? You know, experiment, do it, come back in again. Right, have you kind of thought about this? Have a play around with knee height, off you go. Have a play around with your arms, off you go. And we do it through kind of little races, but again, it's all inclusive. It's not right, can all the fast ones go over, all the slow ones go over there? You know, our lessons now, they look very much alike. You could walk in and it would take you a bit of time see who the higher ability and the lower ability students, because they're all doing the same thing. They're all doing the same thing, but they're accessing it at their level and they're making it work for them as well. And it's great because then you're not segregating your lessons onto kind of like, all right, can like, you know, when you have kind of the 3-part lesson thing, almost or some, or gold, silver, bronze, all those kind of learning objectives where you put ceilings onto kids. We're not saying, right, can you guys just have a go at this? But you look over there, I think you should work on this one here. So the kids automatically go, oh, brilliant. Okay, brilliant. I'm not very good at PE, so let's just do what he's telling me to do. Actually, no, everyone's doing exactly the same thing. But like I said, they're accessing it before. So I had someone come into school and our kids had made up this cool capture the flag style game with noodles and running in between. They had their own rules, they had a little prison on the side, they had their little kind of tactics going on. So this person came in and I said, oh, this is what they're doing. And they looked at it and went, well, it's not really, you know, the skills they're doing aren't really high order, are they? You know, they're not like, say, for instance, like a layup in basketball, which could be, you know, a high order skill, or some people kind of, you know, think this a high order skill. And I said, well, why isn't it why isn't that a high order skill? And I said, well, all they're doing is running and trying to take each other's kind of bibs and stuff. And I said, right, okay, so I'll show you who the higher ability student is. See that student over there? How many people is he trying to take on? Oh, he's trying to take on 4 or 5. Okay, so what about that one over there who's not necessarily the highest ability student in the class? Oh, they're trying to take on 1 person. Right, okay, so that person over there is accessing it, trying to take on 4 or 5 because they're dead confident they really want to go at it. This person over there is doing exactly the same skill, but they're doing it at their level. I'm going to try and take on 1 person first. I'm going to try and take this person's bit. But actually, when you look around, there's no one that stands out as seriously weak or seriously strong. They're just accessing the lesson at their level. And that's what we were trying to achieve. We're trying to treat the inclusive nature where your higher ability students, your lower ability, your SEN, your pupil pre, everyone else, they enjoy the lesson, but they enjoy it and it's fully inclusive. So that was our kind of mantra for kind of starting our new curriculum, and gradually it's starting to kind of take shape. I mean, it's the first year we're going through it, so you know, we're making mistakes. It's making me think. Yeah, I'm sure we could all walk into a basketball lesson and go, right, pluck it off the shelf, thank you very much, there's an outstanding lesson, or a badminton lesson, rugby lesson, football lesson. But that's not what it's about. I'm getting to the point now where I'm thinking, oh my good Lord, I've got to teach this today. Oh my God, what am I going to do? What kind of great ideas can I come up with? And it's challenging me as a practitioner. And I feel more uncomfortable now than I've ever felt in a PE lesson. And I think that's the trick to it, you know. I'm uncomfortable because I need to make it inclusive. I'm uncomfortable because we're making games up on the spot. Fantastic little kind of quirky games that are fully inclusive, you know. So yeah, I'm feeling uncomfortable at the moment, which is good.
It is good. It is good, yeah.
I think so.
And yeah, comfort in the discomfort. I think that was Brené Brown who speaks about that a lot.
I'm looking around to my ECTs. My ECT's like writing notes over my shoulder. Ahmed, he's just unbelievable. We just got him from BCU this season. He's incredible. He's an incredible kind of young teacher. He's been fantastic. I look over his shoulder and he's like planning on his iPad and like, you know, these kind of like, you know, these young teachers do as they do. And I'm looking at his little kind of like, oh, what are you doing there, Ahmed? Oh, what I'm doing there, like I'm doing this kind of game where they got this, that. I says, like, oh, that looks all right, that does. And I'm starting like scribbling down the same idea or plan, thinking, I am taking that, by the way. That's such a super idea. And because everyone teaches the same topic of work at exactly the same time, we are sharing every single day. You know, I think that's a real crucial, like someone's not on basketball, they're not on football, they're not on invasion games or gymnastics or whatever else. We are teaching the same topic, the same units, as it were, at exactly the same time. All we're doing is changing the venues.
Yeah, I love that. We did that in my last school. It's a really significant change, isn't it? Because so much in PE is driven by logistics, or where you're going to do it, what space you've got available. Okay, let's make a curriculum around the space rather than start with the learning needs, start with who our students are, start with our vision, where we want to go, and then let's make it work. And I totally agree that there was a number of decisions I remember making that were real game changers, but nothing was quite like putting everyone on the same activity at the same time, and the conversations, the informal conversations over a coffee at break time. And we also, I don't know how long your units are, but we went to very long, well, it wasn't as very long compared to colleagues in English, but it was 12 to 18 lessons on an activity area.
Yeah.
And that meant that we could have mid-unit review, often with some tech, often with some video, let the students self-assess, set targets set for the second half of the unit. Simple things like that. They have such an impact of taking the kids on that learning journey and moving away. And I might be preempting stuff here or inadvertently being overly critical, but moving away from a 6-week lesson, a 6 half-term block, which sorry,
no, not at all. No, if I'm being honest, mate, we're there because we've got 6 topics really, and we haven't found an answer to it. If I'm being honest, we haven't found the answer to longer blocks, and because the kids get 2 lessons per week, they are getting 12 lessons on a kind of topic on one of our topics, so they are getting a kind of extended period of time. Because I know a lot of schools, they do kind of 1 PE and 1 sport, or 1 games and 1 PE. So you might have like 6 gymnastics followed by 6 football in the same. Because we're on the same topic and everyone's on it for that length of time, they are getting a very good kind of 12 to 14 lessons worth out of that kind of topic, which is
that's what we were doing.
So it's kind of working in a way, because what we're finding is because we're writing schemes of work, we kind of wrote rough schemes of work at the end of last year, and we said let's just give it a go, let's just see how it is. And we're making mistakes, we're making kind of successes at the same time. But what we're finding as we get to the end, we've now found a scheme of work, a way of kind of design schemes of work that actually are user friendly. So I can pick it up and go, right, I'm doing this here, but I'm actually going to do that. There's our assessment point for this there. They're the kind of activities I can do. So if we get someone who comes in relatively new, they can pick it up and just run with it relatively quickly. Because everyone's on at the same time, we have kind of 6 venues. So what tends to happen is we've done 6 different styles of lessons around the topic. So let's go for, say, developing your flow unit. So we're looking at one of the lessons is movement in a creative manner. Well, we've got a gym, so that may well lend itself to things like parkour, gymnastics, dance. In sports, or that might lend itself to, we've got some glow in the dark stuff that we've invested in, which is super. We might do some kind of badminton, basketball. We might look at the differences and the things that transfer around those kind of sports. And then we go outside and we can do our kind of capture the flag, our kind of raid in the house, our kind of tag rugby with, we played rugby with, we play football with rugby balls. So how does your feet change? And we found that actually that the better footballers have struggled the most to that, because they're so used to a ball running flat towards them that their motor programs are pretty much ingrained. The ball comes at me like this, therefore I'm going to have my body like this. When the ball's going everywhere, they're struggling. They're like, oh my good Lord. And actually the kids who don't necessarily kind of love football more than life itself, but have got really quality footwork, but they necessarily don't realize it, they're the ones who flourish in that little game, because the ball's going everywhere and they've got to react quickly. And they found, actually, I'm alongside, like, Joe here, who plays for the school football team, and actually I'm kind of like, I'm along par. So we've kind of leveled the playing field in a lot of the activities we do, and that's where the inclusive nature comes through, and that's where the confidence comes through. What we try and do as much as we possibly can is make these games last for an extended period of time. So, and if you kind of put into that scenario a little kind of mini out zone or a jail zone where they've got to be there for 10, 15, 20 seconds, I'm stood there and I'm having conversations with kids. So if a kid comes out and he's had his flag being taken, I said, oh, I can't believe it. What happened there? Then he goes, well, I tried to go around this way. I said, well, have you tried to kind of push off with this side of your foot instead, or that? I'll tell you what, get yourself back on and give it a go. And straight away, there's your input with each one of those kids. There's your personalization, because the lad might be going, well, I tried to take on 3 or 4 people. I said, well, 3 or 4 people, whereabouts did you do that? I did it over there, sir, but I think I've sidelined myself too near and they cornered me. I said, well, what are you going to do next time then? Well, I think and all of a sudden the thought comes in, and the kids are then analyzing what they're doing, and they're actually telling you where they're going wrong and what they're doing well. So it's having those opportunities where, when you do have an extended, you can pull kids out a little bit and go, come on, stand over it. Let's have a look at 1 or 2 others and what they're doing. Give me a little bit of comment on Joe or Stacey or Bob or whatever else on there. And they're so intuitive with the game, and because they're passionate about what they're doing, and actually they feel, rugby's not my thing, football's not my thing, I'm just learning to tackle because I've got to learn to tackle, it's on the curriculum. Actually, I'm doing this chain tag kind of I don't know, raiding the kind of house style game. All of a sudden, no one's played this game, so I'm on an even keel. They're coming out and they're actually making real valid points about students who are higher ability than they are, or perceived higher ability than they are. And when I'm talking to this child as well, I'm saying, you do realize your footwork is just as good, though. No, sir, but no, stop, stand still. They're used to their footwork being in their area of expertise. I'm telling you, when you kind of make an area where it's out of their comfort zone, and actually it's, the kind of the game you're playing is neutral to everybody, your footwork is just as good. No way. Absolutely. You get yourself on there and showcase it again, because I'm telling you what, I'm being so impressed. And that's where your confidence comes in. That's where your self-worth comes in. That's where your little bit of relationship building with the kids. And that's when they run down to PE. And that's, for me, where that holistic side of things always comes into play. I haven't said to you, right, what we're going to do today is have this as our holistic focus. I've said we're going to play this awesome game, and then we drip feed that holistic nature into it as well. So when we did the spirit of the community, which is very much kind of team building orientated, and we'd be scenario based. So for that one there, for the year 9s, we say, okay, right, you've got a 4v2. The 4 are going to be 7-0 down. You've got 5 minutes to play this game. The 2, you've got to defend this, your 7 goals of your life. What are you going to do about it? I'll give you 5 minutes. I'll give you 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to discuss what you're going to do. Wow, right, where'd you start? All of a sudden, and then you kind of pull it apart slightly. And so that's where you kind of get your progress through. And that spirit of the community is when, little Johnny's left on the side, I stop and start and said, sorry, but is everybody included in this game? And then we talk about empathy and what it must feel like. And, not necessarily that individual, but, we talk about it at the start of the lesson. We talk about empathy and having the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand, actually, why don't we pick teams, like you go in that team, I'll pick you pick, and all of a sudden you get same kids left at the last. So I understand why you pick like that. Why do you pick like that for? And then all of a sudden they start to kind of look inwards and say, well, maybe that's not as good as I thought it always was. Okay, so how can we do it with an empathetic nature? How can we do it with a little bit of a slant where everybody feels valued? And then they start coming up with their own methodology of trying to do it, do numbers, colors, or whatever else, and kind of get a little huddle and just pick numbers and they come out and whatever else it is. But it's fair, and everybody then has a voice. Our very first unit was on self-ID, self-identification, and it was just positive language. Unless you're using positive language, I don't want to hear from you. Don't open your mouth. And they're saying to me, well, what's positive language, sir? So, well, you tell me what positive language is. And then they start going on about, saying to someone, well done. Okay, when do you tell someone well done? Oh, when they've scored. Just when they've scored? Oh, when they might have made a good pass. So you can just tell your mates, oh, no, I'm going to tell someone who's not directly my friend. Well, all of a sudden, fantastic. Okay, so I lead by example as a member of staff, and you've got the little, you know your class pretty well. Those ones are a little bit more timid. Those ones are a little bit more shy with PE. Wow, I praise the life out of them for the first kind of, period of time, and everyone then starts to come on board. They start praising. And then the kid comes up to you and goes, did you see that? Like Joe, who plays for the school football team, just, I said, well, absolutely, because you did super well. And then Joe, you can see as you're walking off, Joe gives a little pat on the back as well. That kid's day has just been made. And then PE comes next time. I'm legging it down to PE because I want to be on Joe. So it's that kind of essence of PE we're trying to really grow. And that's in a very long-winded, how long is this podcast, mate? That's the kind of stuff that we're trying to breed here. And it is in its infancy, but with the year 7s, where we've really had a massive focus on it. Yeah, we've introduced it to year 8s and 9s, but we're trialing different things with the year 8s and 9s because they've missed out of the year 7 and 8 style curriculum. So we are mixing and matching with our new curriculum with the year 7s and 8s. And we're putting some of that into the year 9s because they don't have that kind of platform to kind of spring off on, really going into year 10. But the year 7s, oh my good Lord, they're coming up to us like, sir, I've thought of a great game. Can I use a super noodle, but can I also use a bigger, heavier ball? I'm like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. But do you reckon the super noodle's going to break? It's a good point, sir. I'll be back next week. But they're thinking about their PE. And these are the kids that, like I said, they don't come to the football training session. They just love it. And the parents' evening's feedback was just, we're all in different rooms doing our kind of school cloud for our individual kind of parents' evenings, all online. You get your 5-minute slots and stuff. And I was writing down, oh, I really appreciate it. Could you send an email in about that? Because that's great. I was like, oh, yeah, that's great. Thanks very much. So we all came in at 6:30 after all our meetings, and we just like looked at each other and went, did you have yeah, I had loads. Did you have loads? Yeah, like literally, they just kept on saying, thank you, thank you. My kid hated PE in like, primary school, but now they kind of love what they're doing and they're just really, really inclusive. And we all kind of walked away thinking, yeah, we're on the right path here. We are just on the right path. We are at, like I keep saying, it's nowhere near the finished article. It really isn't, but there are snippets of gold which we're going to latch onto. And at the end of every single half term so far, we've just reviewed it. And I'm so excited for next year because it's going to be even better. Because we thought that doesn't work, that works, and this works, and that doesn't work. So all those little golden kind of nuggets of kind of relationship building with the kids have just lent itself for us to say, yeah, this is the path we want to go on. So yeah, so that's us at the moment.
Just hearing the enthusiasm and the it's not a word I use very often, actually. I don't like it very much, but the passion for what you're doing is just really, really wonderful. And I'm loving, there's so many things I want to ask, and I'm really liking the unit titles that you've touched upon. So you've got self-ID, you've got spirit of community, moving with flow.
Developing your flow.
Developing your flow.
We're on connecting the physical you, which the kids, it's a bit of a mouthful for the kids at the moment. We might well be shortening that down next year, because when we say, right guys, remember what topic are we on? Something about coordination and physical you, sir. And this is like, right, we're not quite there yet, but connecting the physical you. So yeah, but you said coordination last week. I said, yeah, that's the curiosity, that's the focus of what we're doing in lessons. And so there's a bit of tweaking to do with the kind of names, I think. But for us, it's a little bit of a reminder when we're actually planning our lessons, what we're supposed to be really what we're kind of trying to get the kids to kind of understand in lessons. So there's a bit of work with the names, but so that's the one we're on currently, connecting the physical use. It's all about coordination style activities, catching, throwing, passing, receiving, catching, throwing on the move, with implements, with, kind of smooth transition from one movement to the next with different implements and whatever else, like lacrosse and hockey and all these kind of different activities that we're kind of doing, like catch and throw. The catch and throw one's been really quite interesting because, when we say to the students, connecting the physical, yeah, but so I kind of know how to catch, but all right, do you know how to catch this? And like, give them like 7 or 8 different kind of pieces of equipment. Well, I've never thrown that before. So how do you know you can catch it then?
Yeah.
Well,
or
I
in
can catch
that
tennis
context.
and so, but tennis balls are smaller than an American football. I say, well, that American football comes at you, it's going to look a hell of a lot different than a tennis ball. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give you a 2v1 situation. There's 4 cones over there. Set yourself up and come back and just explore and tell me that it's exactly the same. Or we do a kind of a 1v1 there. We go, right, I'm going to be the one that's throwing, and you guys are going to try and kind of vibe it. But my only stipulation is you've got to catch the ball on the move. You can't stand still and catch it. So now you've got a 1v1, they're kind of crossing over, try and move in front. And now you've got to pick the right time to throw in the right, kind of area to throw in as well. Kids coming back there and saying like, all right, so yeah, I kind of get your point a little bit more. and then you've got them.